I'm joined now from New York by Arise International correspondent Faith Orr. Good to see you, Faith. What's happening in outside court there?
At the moment, inside the courtroom, we're actually hearing from Annie Farmer. Now, she was one of the victims who spoke at the original trial, and she has said to the judge that she wants them to take into consideration the amount of suffering there has been in this case when it comes to sentencing Ghislaine Maxwell. She said that Maxwell had plenty opportunity to come clean and chose not to do so, and that because of that the suffering continued. Now, as you said, the prosecutors want between 30 and 55 years. The judge has heard from the prosecutors why they want that. The prosecutors say that she was a predator, that she helped Jeffrey Epstein, but her defence thinks she should only serve 4 to 5 years. They say that she shouldn't pay for Epstein's crimes.
And just remind us, I know you touched on it briefly, but just remind us of what she's being sentenced for today. It had to do with sex trafficking, among other things, didn't it?
It did. So there was sex trafficking was the main issue, and it was also providing underage girls, helping recruit underage girls for Epstein and for his friends. So for instance, one of the women who is testifying today, Virginia Giuffre, she has said that she was personally recruited by Maxwell for Epstein, and then in turn Jeffrey Epstein forced her to have sex with Britain's Prince Andrew. We know that there has been a settlement, of course, in that case, but she will be speaking today, even though she didn't testify at the original trial. Now, there's lots of thoughts on, how much Maxwell was involved in all of this. She has been found guilty, there's no doubt about that. But the court is also considering a document submitted by her siblings, who say that really she met Epstein at a very vulnerable time in her life. Her father, Robert Maxwell, the media tycoon, had just died. We know that he went off of his yacht, which was actually called the Lady Ghislaine. Now, she had had a strange upbringing. As a child, she was completely ignored, to the point that when she was a toddler, she was anorexic, and then her parents turned around completely and smothered her. And her siblings say that because of that, and because of the treatment she had at the hands of her father, she was very, very susceptible to this. But of course, that doesn't excuse all of the crimes that she has been found guilty of, and certainly her victims don't think it's any excuse at all.
And I'm glad you touched on who she is, because I was going to ask you about her being the daughter of the late disgraced British media tycoon Robert Maxwell. But after that high-profile trial in December, Faith, in which she was found guilty, she now faces up to 55 years in prison, which, given that she is 60 years old, is in effect a life sentence.
It is indeed. I mean, she knows she's not walking out of court today. She walked in, she was in, our Navy prison scrubs, her ankles were shackled. She's been held in solitary confinement the past few days. She's been detained since July 2020. She's put in lots of complaints about the prison that she's being held in, saying that there's been, they've violated her rights, unnecessary body searches, cavity searches, that sort of thing. So she knows she's not going home. The only question is how much longer she will spend in prison. And as you say, at 60 years old, even if the prosecutors get the minimum that they've asked for, which is 30, there's every chance she'll never see freedom again. And for her victims, they would say that's exactly the justice that she deserves.
And is this case making big news in America where you are?
It is. There's lots of interest in this case. I would say that most of the crews I spoke to outside of the court earlier were British. So there's lots and lots of British interest here. Of course, she is British. But the court was packed, so much so that there was also an overspill room, which is also packed. FBI agents who worked on the case haven't even been able to get into the courtroom, so they are in the overspill room. I think that just shows you just how much interest there is in this case. Crowds of people outside the court as well as inside the court. Lots of people waiting to see what happens to her today.
And very briefly, when can we expect the sentence?
It will be today. The prosecution has already been heard. The victims are being heard at the moment. Then the defence will be heard. Maxwell will be given the opportunity to speak. She's unlikely to do so. She didn't speak at trial, but she will be offered the chance to speak. And then the judge will make her decision. We know that Maxwell's lawyers are likely to appeal regardless of what happens, but we will know today what the judge decides.
Faith, thanks very much indeed. Faith Orr is Arise international correspondent, and she was talking to me there from New York.